Hey YouTube, this is PrimetimePokemon. In this video, I'll be reviewing my Dusk Mane Necrozma GX deck. Now this is one of several competitive deck reviews that I've done on my channel. In the description of this video, you'll find the link to the playlist I've created for these videos. Now this is the first deck that I've reviewed on my channel, at least competitive-wise, that includes Ultra Prism Pokemon cards. Now I was very excited to build this deck when I first saw the checklist for Ultra Prism, mainly because of the attacks on this Dusk Mane Necrozma. It can do up to 250 damage per turn. So this video will be laid out in the same way that my other deck review videos are done. I'll summarize this deck to start. I'll show a deck checklist of all the cards in the deck. And then at the end of this video, and a majority of this video, we'll be going through each and every card in this deck and stating why the card is in the deck. But strategy-wise with this deck, this is a Metal Energy Acceleration deck. Dusk Mane Necrozma is the primary attacker. What you want to do is you actually want to have your opponent take a prize card to start the game. That way you can get 3 energy cards on Dusk Mane Necrozma, use its Sun's Eclipse GX move, do 250 damage, knocking out hopefully a GX or EX card, taking 2 prize cards. Then the very next turn you want to use Meteor Tempest, doing 220 damage, knocking out another GX card, therefore getting 4 prize cards in 2 turns. And then you just need to get this card set up one more time and knock out something like a GX or an EX, and you can already win the game. So once this deck is set up, it is very good and very powerful and can beat a lot of decks out there. Now, this Pokemon, Dusk Mane Necrozma and Solgaleo Prism Star, are weak to Fire-type Pokemon, of course. Volcanion EX is very popular, its ability Steam Up, and then Turtonator GX and Ho-Oh GX are some popular Fire-type Pokemon out there. And before I get into the deck checklist, 3 cards that I use for Metal Acceleration would be Solgaleo Prism Star. Its Radiant Star move allows you to attach Metal Energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon. Mount Coronet allows you to move Metal Energy cards from your discard pile to your hand. And then Magnezone, which is the most important card in this deck. Its Magnetic Circuit ability allows you to move as many Metal Energy cards from your hand to your Pokemon per turn that you'd like. So as far as the deck checklist goes, as you can see on the screen, I use 16 total Pokemon. Solgaleo Prism Star and then Dusk Mane Necrozma would be the 2 primary attackers. I'm always trying to use Dusk Mane first. Trainers, I have 33 trainers in this deck. Guzma is very important, as well as Professor Sycamore. Professor Sycamore for discarding Metal Energy, and then Guzma just because I do not use any Floatstone trainers to get the Pokemon I want into the active Pokemon spot. And then I do split it up for drawing trainers, and Cynthia and Professor Sycamore, I use 2, 2, and 3 of those. And when it comes to items, tool cards, and stadium cards, there's 17 total. Ultra Ball I have the most of for getting Tapu, Lele, GX, and then something like Magnezone onto my bench. And then like I said, Mount Coronet, very important in this deck. I choose to use Fighting Fury Belt instead of Choice Band just because I want to increase the HP on both Solgaleo Prism Star and then Dusk Mane Necrozma. And then I use 11 Metal Energy in this deck. So now on to the Pokemon that are in this deck, 16 total. The primary attacker would be Dusk Mane Necrozma. This is from the Ultra Prism set. Dusk Mane Necrozma is a basic GX, Metal type Pokemon, 190 HP, so a solid HP. I always try and attach a Fighting Fury Belt to this card to make it have 230 HP. All 3 moves on this card are useful. As you can see, it does have a high retreat cost and is weak to Fire-type Pokemon. Claw Slash, for 3 colorless energy cards, does 60 damage. Now, if you get this card set up and you're facing something like an Alolan Vulpix or anything that has a HP of 60 or 70, you can use Claw Slash without having to discard energy. Meteor Tempest is this card's main move for 4 energy cards. It does 220 damage, which knocks out pretty much anything out there if you attach a Fighting Fury Belt to this card. However, you must discard 3 energy from this Pokemon when using Meteor Tempest. If you have Magnezone set up on your bench, then you can use Mount Coronet or Professor's Letter and get energy cards into your hand, therefore allowing you to reattach 3 energy cards each and every turn. And then Sun's Eclipse GX for 3 Metal Energy does 250 damage. However, you only can use this move if you have more remaining prize cards than your opponent. So ideally, you want to put something weak in your active Pokemon spot to start the game, like a Remoraid or something like a Magnemite. Have it get knocked out, then move Dusk Mane Necrozma GX into the active Pokemon spot. Use Sun's Eclipse GX first, Meteor Tempest second, and get 4 prize cards total in 2 turns. Next up would be Solgaleo Prism Star. I only use 1 Prism Star card in this deck. Of course, you only can use 1 of the same Prism Star in a deck. Solgaleo Prism Star has a solid HP for a basic Pokemon, made even higher by fighting Fury Belt. Both moves on this card are good. Radiant Star is a way to energy accelerate metal energy onto your Pokemon. For 1 metal energy, it says, for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, attach a metal energy card from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. So if you have used Dusk Mane Necrozma GX's Meteor Tempest move a couple of times and your opponent knocks out Magnezone, or you just have 4 or 5 or 6 metal energy cards in your discard pile, you can quickly get those energy cards reattached with Radiant Star. And then Coronet Impact, if you do have Magnezone set up, or if you use Radiant Star first, you can put 4 metal energy cards on Coronet Impact and do 160 damage, which is major damage for a non-GX or EX card. However, if you use Coronet Impact, this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn, so there you use something like Guzma and then put in Dusk Mane Necrozma GX. Of course, with Prism Star cards, once this card is discarded, it goes to the lost zone, meaning there's no way to get this card back into play. So that's really it for the attackers in this deck. Next up, I use 3 Magnemite and 3 Magnezone. I do not use any Magneton in this deck. I use Rare Candy to get from Magnemite to Magnezone. There are 2 different Magnemite in Ultra Prism. I prefer the one with the solid unit ability. It says, as long as this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks. So if you are facing a Buzzwole GX deck, this card cannot be attacked on your bench. I really do not use this card as an attacker. Its 1 move Ram does 20 damage for 2 energy cards. But I do like this card's ability, that's why I prefer it. And then Magnezone, its HP is 150 for a stage 2, but again, I'm only trying to use this card from the bench. Its Magnetic Circuit ability says, as often as you'd like, during your turn, you may attach a metal energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. And if you use this card once, and then you get more metal energy cards into your hand, you can use it again. You can use it as often as you'd like. And you can put multiple energy on multiple Pokemon in play. And again, I use Mount Coronet and then Professor's Letter with this card to get more energy cards into my hand. Now, Zap Cannon does do a fair amount of damage when attacking for 4 energy cards, 130. However, this Pokemon can't use Zap Cannon during your next turn, so it's similar to Solgaleo Prism Star's move, where you can't use it 2 turns in a row. But again, I try and get at least 1 Magnezone set up on my bench. Ideally, you want 2, just so if your opponent Guzmas this card into the active Pokemon spot and knocks it out, you can still energy accelerate with the other Magnezone you have on your bench. Next up would be a 2-2 line of Remoraid and Octillery. This is standard in a lot of decks out there. This line is used for drawing cards. This Remoraid is from the Breakthrough set. It is the one that has Wild River on it. Switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. 60 HP, so a solid HP. I sometimes put this card out in the active Pokemon spot to get it knocked out, so then I can use the GX attack on Dusk Mane Necrozma. And then Octillery, I can't attack with this card at all. Abyssal Hand is the main reason I want to keep this card on the bench. Its ability says once during your turn, you may draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. Now, Rangaroo is also popular. I prefer this one because it allows you to get 5 cards into your hand instead of 3. And when you're trying to get additional energy into your hand or trying to get Magnemite into Magnezone, Abyssal Hand is very important. So ideally, I try and use Brigette the first turn during the game. I put out one Dusk Mane Necrozma, one Magnemite, and then one Remoraid. I try and get 2 Magnemite if possible on my bench if I already have Remoraid or if I have Dusk Mane Necrozma out there. I try and save Solgaleo Prism Star until the end of the game. Another staple in most competitive decks would be Tapu Lele GX. I just use 2 Tapu Lele GX. There's a lot of ways to draw cards in this deck, so that way I don't have to get as many supporter cards with Wonder Tag on Tapu Lele. It says, when you play this Pokemon from your hand on your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. And Energy Drive on this card is useful. It does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So I guess if the opposing deck is a fire type deck, you could use Magnezone to get several metal energy on Tapu Lele GX and do major damage with Energy Drive. So that is really it for the Pokemon in this deck. I can move on to the trainer cards now, but again, Dusk Mane Necrozma is the primary attacker in this deck. You want to give up a prize card to start the game, then use both of Dusk Mane Necrozma's moves in a row to get 4 prize cards. And you can always Guzma something like a GX into your opponent's active Pokemon spot to get 2 prize cards instead of 1. Now, I have played with this deck on the online game quite a bit. A deck that I struggle with would be something like a Greninja Break deck, where you are only getting 1 prize card whenever you knock out a defending Pokemon. That means that you have to reattach energy quite often when using Dusk Mane Necrozma, and sometimes you even run out of cards in your deck trying to do that. But that is really the weakness with this deck, I would say, would be any deck that does not use any EX or GX cards, and then of course Fire type decks. Next up would be the trainer cards here. 33 total trainers I use in this deck. I'll show the supporter cards first. 16 supporters. First up would be Guzma. I use 3 Guzma. This is from the Burning Shadow set. It says, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. If you do, switch your Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. And I do not use any Floatstone trainers in this deck. Like I mentioned with Dusk Mane Necrozma, you're going to want to attack GX or EX cards, so you can Guzma those cards into your opponent's active Pokemon spot. Very useful. And then if you do get something like Magnemite, Octillery, Remoraid, Tapu Lele, those Pokemon in your active Pokemon spot that you do not want to attack with, you can use Guzma to get those Pokemon out of your active Pokemon spot. Next up would be Professor Sycamore. I use 3 Professor Sycamore. This is from the Breakpoint set. It allows you to discard your hand and draw 7 cards. This is the supporter that I prefer for drawing cards in this deck, mainly because it allows you to discard mental energy. Mount Coronet and then Solgaleo Prism Star's Radiant Star move all benefits from metal energy in your discard pile. And then Skyla, I also use 3 of. This is helpful to get several different trainer cards in this deck. Skyla is from the Breakthrough set. It says, search your deck for a trainer card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. So I use this to get to Mount Coronet, Professor's Letter, Ultra Ball, or Rare Candy. Very useful for getting Magnezone set up and getting energy cards into my hand. Brigette is next. I use 2 Brigette. This is from the Breakthrough set as well. It says, search your deck for 1 Pokemon EX or 3 basic Pokemon and put them on your bench. So like I was talking about, I try and use this card to start the game. Ultra Ball and then Tapu Lele GX are the ways to get to this Brigette card. I try and put down 1 each of Dusk Mane Necrozma, then I put down Remoraid and Magnemite. Cynthia is next. I use 2 Cynthia. This is from Ultra Prism. It says, shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 6 cards. And this is useful because it does not affect your opponent's hand at all. So if your opponent is struggling, you can use Cynthia instead of N and not refresh your opponent's hand. I do use 2 copies of Supporter N. This is from the Fates Collide set. It says, each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck. Then each player draws a card for each of his or her remaining prize cards. So if you are losing in the game, this trainer will give you more cards into your hand than your opponent. And then if your opponent does use something like Beacon on Alolan Vulpix and you know your opponent has cards they want in their hand, you can use N to have them shuffle their hand into their deck. And then the final supporter would be Acerola. I use one Acerola, and I use this just in case it's taking me a while to get Dusk Mane Necrozma set up, and I do have Dusk Mane Necrozma in the active Pokemon spot. I use Acerola on that Dusk Mane Necrozma, move it back to my hand, hopefully I have Magnezone set up, and then I can immediately set up Dusk Mane Necrozma again and get it attacking that very same turn. Next up would be the items, tool cards, and stadium cards. I use 17 total. The first would be Ultra Ball. Now this is from the Shining Legends set. It says, discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. So I can use this to discard Metal Energy, and I use this usually to get to either Tapu Lele GX or to Magnezone or Octillery. That way you can quickly evolve some of your basic Pokemon. Fighting Fury Belt, I use 3 of. Now this is the tool card of choice for this deck. You could also use Choice Band, but I like Fighting Fury Belt because it increases your basic Pokemon's HP by 40, and it increases its attacks by 10. Now Dusk Mane Necrozma already does do major damage and can knock out pretty much any Pokemon in one move, so that's why I opt to go with Fighting Fury Belt over Choice Band. Mount Coronet is next. This is from Ultra Prism. I use 3 copies of this card. It says, once during each player's turn, that player may put 2 Metal Energy cards from their discard pile into their hand. So this, paired with Professor's Letter, will easily let you refresh Dusk Mane Necrozma after using Meteor Tempest if you have Magnezone set up. And then Rare Candy I use 3 of. This is from a Plasma series set, but you can also find this in newer sets out there. I use Rare Candy instead of using Magneton in this deck. That way you can jump from Magnemite to Magnezone and start using Magnezone's ability that much quicker. Professor's Letter I use 2 of, and I use Skyla a lot of times to get to Professor's Letter. That way I can refresh the amount of energy on Dusk Mane Necrozma quite quickly. It says, search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterward. And this is from the Breakthrough set as well. Breakthrough is a very good set for the competitive game. It is the oldest set in the 2018 standard format though. Field Blower I just use the 1 of, in case your opponent has a lot of Pokemon with Choice Band, anything like that. Float Stone, you can blow those cards off of the Pokemon playing field. I only use 1 copy of this card just because with Dusk Mane Necrozma, when it is set up, you're going to be able to knock out Pokemon quite quickly, and you really don't have to worry about the tool cards attached to those Pokemon. And then I also use 1 Rescue Stretcher. Field Blower and Rescue Stretcher are both from the Guardians Rising set. It allows you to do one of the following. Put a Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, or shuffle 3 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck. Now you can specifically discard maybe Tapu Lele GX, and then once you get this card into your hand, use the first option, get Tapu Lele GX back into your hand and use its ability. So lots of good options with this Rescue Stretcher. Finally would be the energy cards in this deck. I just use 11 basic Metal Energy. Now 11 is a little bit less than some other decks out there, but ideally you're going to be able to reuse the discarded Metal Energy with both Solgaleo Prism Star and Mount Coronet. And like I said, with Magnezone, if you have that set up, you can easily reattach energy each and every turn. Plus, you really only have to attack twice with Dusk Mane Necrozma and knock out 2 GX cards to get 4 prize cards. And really, if you're able to knock out 3 GX cards, you're going to win the game. So you really only have to attack 3 times with this deck to win a battle. So it is a quick attacking deck once set up. I'll give you that. Sometimes you will struggle to get this deck set up, but once it is set up, you can quickly win a game doing well over 200 plus damage each and every turn. So I really do like this deck. It is a powerful attacking deck. It is mainly basic Pokemon in here, so you do not have to worry about getting anything evolved outside of Magnezone and getting that ability set up. If you're new to the Pokemon TCG, or if you're looking for a deck to build from the Ultra Prism set, I would highly recommend this Magnezone, Solgaleo Prism Star, and then Dusk Mane Necrozma GX deck. I've battled with this deck on the online game about 100 times. I have made some modifications over time, messing with the amount of different trainer cards in this deck to see what worked best. I actually had Choice Band in this deck originally. I went away from that pretty quickly, moving to Fighting Fury Belt. So there you have it. Thanks everyone for watching. As always, before you go, check out all the links in the description of this video, including links to my blog, Facebook, and Twitter pages, and please let me know what deck you'd like me to review in a future video. I'm hoping to review several more popular Ultra Prism decks. I know both Leafeon and Glaceon are very popular in Ultra Prism. So there you have it. Thanks everyone for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. Thank you.